Good afternoon, everyone. I am shooting this video from where I live, and I am currently standing on the road that I live on, and I'm just going to kind of show you where I live. This is a large piece of property here that gets mowed. It is beautiful. So many people have been here and dropping off things and such and said, well, where is your garden? Well, that's the fun part. And as I walk through our property, I'll be talking to you about gardening a bit. I really want to encourage you guys to plant, whether it's in a pot or a tiny 4x4 section. Starting somewhere is awesome. And that's kind of how my journey began. Well, my father is from a farming family, and we always had large gardens, and we always grew, a small amount of food. And all my life, like when I was living in apartments, I was planting, in pots. There's my brother. Hi. He's been doing the lawn work. And then I kind of graduated to a 10x10 section at one of the places that I lived, and that was a blessing. And I got a little more experience doing this on my own, if that makes sense, without my father's advice, because he's been passed. But anyways, so we were blessed to find this place, and here I'll pan out one more time to show like our back deck and the side of the house. Many of you know, but my brother and I rent, and my landlord has been just a massive blessing. Allison, if you're listening, thank you again. Who has allowed us to pretty much do what we wanted back here. We just have to be careful of the well, and we have a solution for that. The last couple of summers we've been pumping out of the brook, and it's wonderful in between the rain. So again, we are entering what my brother calls the secret garden. And you'll be able to hear our pump, because my brother is now watering the garden. I'll stop here on the bridge and show you our brook. And there you have it. My nephew dammed up a section, so we have a little bit more water to pump from, so it won't disturb the wildlife. We have fish in here, crayfish in here, and sometimes we have a snake visitor. Fun. Okay, so you're gonna hear my dog because he's now tracking something in the yard, so I apologize for that. These are the extensive blackberry bushes that we get a ton of blackberries on. Last year I was actually able to make a small batch of jelly. Year before, just saved them, froze them, and dehydrated them for my smoothies. And because it was such a mild winter, we are going to have a ton. And my brother was so graciously helpful to go along and make kind of trails in and out of a couple of the areas. Okay, that's my next door neighbor's property right there. So I will kind of span. This is one side of the original garden, and this goes to over here, and then we have our water barrels for emergencies. and some more blackberries over here. I have a ton of bee balm, and I love it. It brings bees, butterflies, and believe it or not, the hummingbirds love it, and they bring their babies to the bee balm when it's about 3 feet tall, and they teach the babies how to get pollen. So that's pretty cool. You get to see that. All right, so this is the new section, one of the new sections. Right here is what we call a 3-year peach tree. They're miniature peach trees. I have one here and I have one at the end. I also have a lovely French pink pussy willow bush right here that will, spread out. I planted it last year, so when it starts to bloom, I'll be sure to check back with you. Okay, and so this was all grass, and it was once pasture. So it is extremely fertile. And my awesome cousin Ryan came and he took up the top layer, which was probably about 6 to 8 inches thick of grass and grass roots. He removed that layer, and he did that for this section and the next section. And he put it over here, dirt side up, which is awesome because I have a friend who is going to be planting pumpkins on that hill. So that'll be awesome. And then my cousin also let us know that in a year or so, that's all going to be composted. So it's just going to be lovely, fertile dirt, manure dirt. Because believe it or not, when this was first taken up a couple of weeks ago, when they tilled it and then it rained, it literally smelled like a pasture out here. And I was so happy about that because of the being so fertile. So this is what I do. If you see these stakes, I use stakes for so many purposes in my garden. And this, one of the uses is I put it at the end of the rows where things are planted. So I know that right there is a row of something planted, so I could remember. And this particular row is onions, and it goes all the way to the end. I think it was about 200 starts, so potentially 200 onions will be popping up. I am not the best of a potato planter. I've done it several ways. Perhaps I just didn't do it the correct way for this area, but we have a wonderful friend named Rob who is from another farming family, and they, from my understanding, didn't grow more than like onions, garlic, potatoes. I think there was like 4 or 5 things, so they're kind of experts. And so he said he would help me out and create that for me, and he'll gain from the harvest, and we'll be able to harvest potatoes throughout the season. Okay, now the next section, you could see the hills, and I have a wonderful friend who helped me do this. And right now what you see is a long row of zucchini and yellow squash, and then the next row is butternut squash. And you see I have this rope, this stake and a rope here that's telling me where my next row is going to go. And I had a friend start doing those hills today. So the remainder of this is going to be a bunch of different squash, like Hubbard squash, 2 different varieties, winter squashes, acorn squash, spaghetti squash, and they are vines, so they will basically fill this whole section. And then this section over here, which is not complete yet, when we were tilling, this area, quarter of the area was too wet. So the guys will be finishing this area. Hopefully by midweek it'll be done. And then hopefully by the weekend, next weekend, I'll be able to plant. And this is going to be, most of it will be all corn. And there's about 4 or 5 different varieties. And then here will be peppers. I was going to do peppers in the original garden and decided I shouldn't say too many, but I have a lot. So peppers are good planted next to corn, and I decided to bring them out here so we have some of that action going on. All right, now this middle section right here, if you go up the row, let me get around this rope. So a good friend of mine has raspberries, and all the way up there's approximately 30 raspberry bushes, and my brother just weed whacked this area today, so it's nice. And they won't have, the reason why we planted them in the grass is because they don't have to compete against weeds, just the grass that my brother will keep. Sorry guys, I just got hit with water. We're watering at the same time too. My brother will keep up with that. Okay, so now I just want to show you what has been done in the original garden so far. This is the other peach tree, and we had blossoms this year, so we're pretty good to go for peaches this year. Now there won't be a ton, but there will be some. I have some perennials in the original garden, and they spread more bee balm. And that is the massive, let me see if I can get it, turnip that survived from last season. You can't really see it too well, but do you see the beautiful yellow flowers? Because it's gone to seed because it's been here a while. And this will attract a ton of butterflies, and the hummingbirds like it too. So let's go in the original garden so I can kind of point out what's been done so far. This is progress, and I'm starting to learn how to appreciate. These are all daffodils in here, and my good friend Colette planted other perennials in here this year. I just keep adding to it. People are gracious, and I am blessed for people who donate their perennials that need to be separated, and they come here, and I kind of don't buy perennials because, you know, eventually it'll get filled up with all of the lovely donations from my friends. So this is our main walkway, and as you see, the stakes, right? So this is pretty much mostly done. There's going to be 2 more rows put in here, over here, and I'm going to just go down the line and how we did this and what's there. And then I'm going to start talking to you about just doing it. Okay, so all the way down against the fence, there's 2 rows, okay? Goes all the way from one end to the one end of the garden to the next, and those are approximately 50 tomato plants. So when they get bigger, you know, you'll be able to see them better. You do a close-up of one of them, and I use the fence so they can have you know, structure, something to lean up against, and then I will tie them to the fence. And I started doing that last year, and it really like paid off. As you could see, I have straw in between the rows. Straw is I use for, those are walking rows, and where you can walk. And then I also do in between, when they start shooting up the vegetables, I use that for weed control. And it started, okay, back at you. So the next row, which is there, kohlrabi, straw for walking, also for weed barrier, radish. Now, those are 6 different varieties, and I have learned that radishes are incredibly versatile. I mean, we eat them raw. We're a radish family. We grew up just eating them like that. We put them in salads, and then I learned that they can be mashed, believe it or not, and added with other vegetables if you'd like. But radishes can be cooked, and roasted is one of my favorites. Okay, so the next row, I believe it's turnips. Yep, is turnips. And we eat those, I cook them, and then I also process them slightly, parboil them, and put them in the deep freezer so we can eat throughout the winter, fall, winter. We've got beets. This is another vegetable that I am not excellent at. And I did something a little different this year. We are using aerating for the soil, and I think that may do the job. Then you've got, someone's going to say my line is crooked. It's not planted crooked like that. It just looks that way. Anyways, carrots, and another line of carrots. And if you see this, that is actually broccoli from last year that didn't die, and it has seeded, and I will use the leaves because those are very good for you. Then we're going to have a space, and we have 2 rows over here of cucumbers. One row is going to be trained to go up and over the fence, and then you've got hills. We're going to have a nice space in between the cucumbers and the carrots. Straw will be put down there. So with the addition of the new gardens, the vegetables get a little bit more space, and I'm excited about that. My dear friend Ariane was here today planting the cucumbers, and this is another row against the fence and more hills. We're also going to have a nice walking space here to give the vines room, and so I won't miss any. And then you have my garlic chives, which are awesome. They're beautiful. These purple flowers will be purple poof balls, and you can cook with them. I harvest them, I cut them down, they grow back. I could probably cut them down 20 times and they will completely grow back, and very happy about that. So over here we have some perennials, also to bring, the bees and the butterflies to the garden. I've got a little butterfly bush that I just planted, and there's going to be some flowers in there. And then you've got bee balm, and then another flower that unfortunately I forgot the name. Okay, so let's go down the line, and then that'll be easier. So you got more tomatoes on that side, right? And then 2 lines of Swiss chard. Then you have a row of eggplant, and cabbage, another row, half a row of cabbage, then a full row of cabbage, and then kale and collards were planted today. And then I'm going to have 2 more rows right here. So still to be planted in this garden is the romaine lettuce and spinach. And then I'm going to go down here to show you my little herb garden, because I have an herb garden in here. What you see there is mostly mint. There's some weeds in there. And then on the other side you have lemon balm. I've got lemon balm here, and then cilantro. But I have thyme, oregano, basil, dill, lots of basil because I love basil. And then, okay, this always blows my mind. You see these 4 plants at the end? Those are stevia, and they'll grow about 3 to 4 feet tall. And right there, 2 of the plants was my stevia for about 6 months of the year. So I'll have enough for a year. I use stevia in my coffee or tea. So this isn't for like baking purposes, but that's enough right there of stevia for my coffee or tea for the year. And you know, this is the back end of the blackberries, bee balm, bee balm. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. That's the tour. But now I want to just discuss a little bit, just to encourage you. You can, if you live in an apartment, you can grow herbs in pots. You can grow radishes in pots. You can grow carrots in pots. Now, you're not going to get a lot, but there's a lot to be said about planting your own food, and there's a gratification that you get from it that is unlike anything. There's something to be said about planting seeds, watering them, watching them grow, especially when they come up in a row. And you just see the life that's being formed. God is so creative, and He's so good in how He made these things, and it's a blessing to me that I get to be able to tend this piece of earth here. If you know me, I am completely humble about all of this, and again, I thank the Lord every single day that I'm able to do this, and that I have my brother who helps, and I have helpers from my church and friends, and God just keeps on giving, and that's the bottom line. And I mentioned this the other day to a couple friends, but I'll kind of repeat it here, that it says in the Bible that God will give you, if you believe in Him, you know, if you love Him, He will give you the desires of your heart. And right here, guys, is a huge desire of my heart, and to be able to plant, grow, harvest, and process. It's just amazing. So anyways, that's the tour. And like I said, I just want to encourage you, you know, don't get overwhelmed with what you see here. Again, starting off, when I was in an apartment, I was able to grow like a 10 by 10 section, and I started off with that. And I can tell you right now that if I was living in an apartment and I had only a front yard, and if I only had a small section, I would totally turn it into a garden. And I encourage you guys to just think outside of the box. This is my philosophy. Grass is great, right? But I'd rather be able to grow my food. And, you know, just, I want to throw it out there that the summer is, you know, just beginning, or the season is just beginning, and I welcome anyone to come here. I could show you if you have questions, if you just want to, you know, check it out and see the stages and how it goes, and etc., you're welcome. Contact me, you know, through Messenger, or comment here in the Homespun Sisters channel. And I could promise you this, that I will be having, you know, many people here this summer, due to the fact, well, it's just something that God wants me to share, and that's on my heart, and I'm well aware of that. It's also, given the current situation, which I really didn't want to mention in this video, but there's enough space here to be able to distance yourself if need be, if you feel that, you know, you need your distance from others. But again, it's, you know, it's my desire to have people here and to be able to educate and just, you know, fellowship and have fun with it. All right, so that's your tour, guys, and see you on the next video. God bless.